Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Heath Perkins with Free Water Co. with us. Welcome back, my friend. It's going absolutely fantastic. There's a whole lot of news the networks refuse to use to run across your desk today, my friend. But let's start out with the Honest Money Report. Where are we sitting with constitutional currency, gold and silver, sir?
Today, gold's hovering around $4,205.90.
42.0590. Wow. Okay.
And silver has come down a little bit from a few highs we've had this week, but it's down to $56.95.
$56.95. That's just crazy. I know it's down a little bit. What's the high for silver that we've seen?
I think it barely missed 59, so it's moving up.
All right, so it was in the 58s, $58 and whatever cents. I'm 58, so it hit a good high. What do you think of that?
Nice. Oh, yeah.
All right, there's so much to discuss. I don't even know how to respond to this, Heath, but I want to give you a crack at this really quick. Elon Musk is out there saying, hey, we got to crank up AI and robotics. It's the only way to get ourselves out of this $38 trillion and ever-increasing debt. And it's a debt spiral, and if we use robotics and machine, etc., we can develop this rapid deployment of these robotics and AI and everything else. He claims that only drastic automated productivity can produce the output of goods and services necessary to go ahead and, take care of business. It'll make it to where we can pay the interest. It'll just be incredible. Musk contends this type of technological driven growth is the only realistic path out of the debt crisis. Your response?
More consumerism is not our solution out of the debt. The debt and the interest on the debt, any household can tell you it's, when you have this kind of debt, you get buried and you can't get out of it. That's why they call it a debt spiral. This is not. Productivity is good things. It's a good thing, but at the same time, consumerism is what would drive a lot of that productivity. And it's like they want us to spend more. It's like they've been telling us our whole lives that we should spend, and buy. And they've never told us once, hey, save your money. Save your money. Save it for a rainy day. Look more towards the Austrian style of economics, where the consumption is not based around, or the GDP is not based around mainly consumption, but around savings. When there's a downturn, the people have the ability to step in and to fill in the gaps and take on more opportunities in a downturn. This isn't, it wouldn't be a solution if we keep going down the path of the banking system that we've been using for so long. We still owe the debt. The debt's not going to go away.
And the interest continues to increase on the debt unless you significantly pay it down, right?
Yeah. And no one is even talking about this.
All right. Well, I'm not very intelligent, but let me just throw out something that I've thought about, and maybe it's just my lack of economic knowledge, Heath. So maybe you can help me out here. But if we have AI and automation and robotics and everything else just crank up big time, then I probably won't have a job. And if I don't have a job, how am I going to spend more? And how am I going to, what good's it going to do if we don't have any jobs? It's kind of like how they want you to put corn and turn it into fuel and put it in your gas tank. I'm like, I can drive around hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but the same thing here. How are you going to go ahead and just do awesome robotics and AI and crank all that up big time? That's going to be the solution. But if there's no money in my pocket, I can't buy anything.
Yeah. Well, I think there's solution.
Am I just stupid?
No. You're not stupid on this one, but this kind of goes into another one of the things that they want to move forward on, which is universal basic income. If you don't have the money and these AI and robots are doing everything and, kind of taking over the service and production of most of our society, and a lot of us don't have those jobs anymore, they're going to have to offer universal basic income. And that's where that consumption is going to come from. But it's just, this is just a, a system trap that keeps us from being independent. We can't have a universal basic income and still have the same rights that we had before.
Well, and I want to know how much my universal basic income is going to be, because if it's the same as everybody else's, then we'll all be poor together. I don't see how, we're all just going to be rich. I mean, if we're all rich and we can buy everything we need, why do we even need universal basic income? Why don't we just, go into the store and just take what we need? And I mean, why even have money if we can just get all that we want and it's going to be great and incredible? Why do we even need to have an income and then I have to pay you to, get gold and silver? Why can't I just kind of come in and say, hey, Heath, I need some gold and silver now, and you should give me some? What I'm kind of getting at is, where does this end, right?
Well, you take the incentive out of working hard for anyone, working hard and getting ahead and thinking through things and solving problems. This is how individuals gain wealth, is by resolving other issues that are out there in the market. They don't gain that incentive if you just hand them a universal basic income. Like, they don't have the incentive to think for themselves and to not just be told what to do like good little soldiers. Like, an entrepreneurial mindset has to come from, solving others' problems and being compensated for doing so. If you're not compensated for doing the extra work to solve those problems, you're not going to do it. No one's going to do it. So, yeah.
Well, now Trump ends Biden era fuel standards for cars. And I guess I just don't understand that either. If Biden created the fuel standards, he's in the wrong branch of government to make law. So we ought to arrest him if he did that. And if he didn't do it, Congress gets the blame. And if we're going to get rid of the standards that they created, Congress must do it, or else President Trump, can he just... Anyway, at the end of the day, they say if we get rid of these Biden-era fuel standards, it'll save you about $1,000 on a car. But I'm telling you, if a car costs $40,000 or $37,000 or whatever it is on the average, I'd have to look it up to see the latest numbers. Is $1,000 going to matter much?
No.
Can I buy a car with my basic income, my universal basic income?
No, you'll probably be leased one, because you're never going to own anything down that path.
Oh, just leased. Okay.
Yeah, universal basic income. You're not going to own anything, but you'll be happy, kind of a thing.
Well, I could hire an Uber, except for if everybody's on universal basic income, why would an Uber come?
Well, a robot would be driving the Uber at that point.
Oh,
so
yeah. Okay. And then do I have to pay for that Uber with my universal basic income?
I guess so. It's just a spiral down in society of taking all the incentive out of anyone doing anything. This is where being on the dole is not a good thing, because it sucks from you the desire to make anything better. You don't need to, because everything's taken care of. But they also are going to play with a lot of the strings and stuff that will be attached to this. Like, you're not going to just get this, free and not have any strings attached. They're going to have strings, and that's going to include, hey, if they don't want you to be outside of a certain area, you're not going to be able to purchase things outside of a certain area, or travel outside that area, or take an Uber outside of that area. Or
well, what if I want to go?
Well, if you're using universal basic income, you've got to follow their rules. And that's the sad part, is we don't realize how much of a trap this is.
All right. Well, they put another plan in place that I kind of just don't understand economically, that you might need to help me out with. Mm-hmm. Headline says this: surveillance pricing, increasingly used by companies to set, quote, personalized prices. Mm-hmm. Surveillance pricing, just so everybody understands, involves companies using personal data and a personal data set, specific prices for individual consumers, a practice highlighted in reports. They're trying to work that out at the Federal Trade Commission. Now, here's my deal with that. So they're going to look at Sam's income and look at Heath's income. And if Sam wants to buy a pizza, it's going to be this cost. It's not going to be very expensive, because I'm on my universal basic income. You know what I'm talking about? Now, Heath is quite wealthy, and so they're going to basically charge him through the nose. My pizza that costs $5 costs you $25, sir. This pricing strategy, they say, can lead to consumers seeing different prices for the same products based on the personal information gathered about them, such as recent payments, if you're a parent, parental status, if you rent or own your home, The term, they say, has gained traction following a study by the Federal Trade Commission, which found that mouse movements and abandoned shopping carts were being used for price setting. So if I abandon my cart, they might come back and say, Sam, I know your universal basic income's running out, buddy. We're going to, take care of you. Come on back and buy. Whereas they're not going to give that to you, sir, because they know you're doing well. They're just going to let you empty your cart and come home back if you ever want to try again, kind of thing. I mean, this is insanity stuff.
Yeah. But this is how you get half the population on your side to side with you on this, because it sounds really good for those who are struggling, and it takes extra effort away from them to get ahead, and so someone's going to take care of me and give me a better price versus them giving them a higher price based on them making more, which everyone, the idea of let's play fair. Yes, it's fair, but is that fair? There's nothing fair about that. It's again, but it's to get people that are in the lower income brackets to side with them. Like, they need the support, and this is an easy way for them to get it. Just mentally, like you'd have a few individuals that would highly jump on this, and then you'd have the lower 50% of the wage earners be happy about this.
All right, I've got two conflicting headlines here, and I want to get your take. First one says this: affordability crisis strikes U.S. as inflation soars over 20%, impacting seniors, workers on fixed incomes, families living paycheck to paycheck, and so on. They say it's monetary mismanagement by the government that's causing it and all that kind of stuff. Well, here's the deal then. Then Donald Trump says cost of living concerns are fake. Are they fake for you, Heath?
No.
Your concern is not warranted, sir.
Yeah, like we're seeing this here so when someone comes to sell gold and silver, like if they make a profit in it, meaning they bought it at $10 and they sell it for $20, that profit they got to pay capital gains on, and it's just like you're paying capital gains on inflation. Like, doesn't make any sense. Like, that's what silver and gold do, is they move up with that inflation and they offset the inflation, but now you're being taxed on the inflation on top of it. So it's like you can't get ahead in a system with inflation. You truly are constantly losing. Everyone's constantly losing unless you unless you can live off interest, the interest of whatever funds you have piled there. And money was never meant to be hoarded the way that we hoard, that the elite or anyone else hoards money these days. It was meant to be utilized as a tool that can keep the commerce flowing. But we've turned it into, I can hoard $1 billion and just live off the interest the rest of my life, and that $1 billion never gets back into society. Only parts of the interest, and it's never more than the interest that kind of an individual will be earning. And so this system is difficult because it promotes greed and holding on to mass quantities of wealth or mass quantities of money when that was never the case. The case was supposed to be, this was a tool, and that tool was meant to keep commerce flowing, and we've strayed from that significantly.
Now, the president, they say, downplays concerns, claims inflation rate is, quote, very good. Trump has dismissed the cost of living index issues. He says it's a con by Democrats. And I guess my question is this: maybe what we ought to do is put all presidents of the United States on universal basic income while they're president, and then they can go ahead and, see if it's no problem, not a concern, a hoax, a scam, or whatever. Oh, they are on universal basic income. Did you know the president gets like $400,000 a year as his salary?
Yeah, for the rest of his life.
That's the basic income for those guys, right?
And a Cadillac plan, health plan. It's the statement that it would cost Trump more to lean over and pick up $100 bill instead of step over it and keep going is realistic. Like, he doesn't have these concerns or these worries, and yes, he can say that things are fine, and they're really not. But that doesn't solve the problem. Like, zero interest is the only, or zero inflation is the only good inflation. Um, like, having any inflation constantly eats away at our purchasing power.
But
Like, we,
Heath, if I call it a hoax, won't it just go away? If I just say, hey, it's a con by the Democrats, buddy, won't it go away then?
for part of the individuals who blindly follow some of these leaders, yes, that would make it go away in their mind. But the reality is the opposite. Like, we are struggling. Society is not. I mean, we get firsthand of how things are in the economy based upon this is one of the last assets that people sell to pay taxes. I mean, we had a lot of people coming in November to pay those taxes, property taxes and stuff. Um, and so we see it. We see, people struggling. Like, we constantly are telling people, hey, gold and silver is going to continue moving up. Hold on to it if you don't need to sell. But if you need to sell, that's why it's there. And 80% of the time, it's like, I have to sell. There is a huge struggle going on right now, and visually, we get to see it every day.
Yeah, people might have to pawn the Tesla, huh?
Yeah.
I wonder if
Um,
they'll let you pawn a Tesla, or if they just be like, oh no, we don't do that. Anyway, Donald Trump says it's a con by the Democrats, but this contradicts his earlier position, where Trump labeled himself the quote affordability president. What gives with that, man? How can it be? How can it be a con by the Democrats discussing affordability, cost of living, but then he's the affordability president? He told you that. How does that work if it's a con job, but he's the affordability president?
this turns into wordsmithing. It's hitting the right words at the right time, to ease the concerns of part of your society, and he's playing this very well. Um, Not enough people have the retention, like some, like yourself and others, that listen to certain topics and will call them out on it. Most just on a day-to-day basis just hear what is being said, and that's all they need to know. And it doesn't matter if a month or two ago there was the very opposite statement being made at that point. um, we've kind of lost the ability to focus on any one task and overcome it, because we're being bombarded by so many things all at the same time. And this is how this kind of wordsmithing happens. You can say something a couple months later versus what you said previously, and it can be completely contrary, like you're saying, because we can't focus on a single task and overcome it, because again, too many things are coming at us at once, and that's how they get away with it. And we're so busy working our jobs to afford living that it's we're kind of stuck. We're stuck with um, wasting our time on things that we shouldn't be wasting our time on, instead of being focused on the things that we should be focused on.
So if
Luckily,
I'm Donald Trump and I'm the affordability president, and the affordability discussion's a con job by Democrats, then am I the con president?
but yeah, I
Just
mean,
kind of wondering, because I
yeah,
find that very fascinating. Now, ADP, those are the big private company payroll people and all that kind of stuff, right?
yeah.
They say that private employment in the U.S. decreased by 32,000 jobs in November, marking the third decline in the last 4 months. Now, here's what I find interesting about this. They say this announcement came on Wednesday, highlighting a potential worsening phase in the labor market. The lack of official data, they say, is the big problem, because the government shutdown created uncertainties and key economic reports simply not being there or being delayed. The current November jobs report going to be delayed till December 16th. The October one not even going to come out. It's so bad. But here's what I don't understand. If ADP already has the number and they say we've lost 32,000 jobs, ADP reported that job declines were most notable for small businesses, manufacturing, construction, and professional services. If they know all that to that level of detail, why do we need the government numbers, or else we act like we're in a vacuum and we can't function? We've already got private sector numbers on private sector employment being reported, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah. And when they don't want to give the numbers up and they won't give the numbers up, this is just prolonging, um, just the realization by the people of what situation we're truly in, because so many people rely upon those idiotic numbers to tell them how the things are, where you can feel it out there now. Like it's not even, you don't have to do anything besides just get in tune with how things are, and you can just feel that there is a very, like, there's a huge pressure on everyone to make it, and like I've mentioned this before, but we are in a silent depression. We have it worse, and if you compare numbers to numbers from 1930, when the worst of the Great Depression, versus now, we have it far worse. Cost of things are far more expensive. Yes, we have more jobs, instead of one job, or the unemployment they had was negative or 25%, but we have overemployment. We have multiple jobs we have to have, side gigs and everything else, in order just to keep going. The amount of side gigs people don't take into effect, like, that's only to keep things in the same system that you're in. Like my same purchasing, ability will go down if I don't have side gigs, and that's where most people are in the U.S. now. Like, we are.
Yeah, but what side gig might you get? Like Uber driver or something? Pizza delivery guy?
Anything. People are looking for any kind of a side gig. Like,
I know, but we're going to automate all that, buddy.
I know. Yeah, and these side gigs
are very strange.
Yeah, but it's, I don't know. This is not the solution for the pain that we're experiencing right now. Is being issued by Elon and others, and Trump just kind of gaslighting us, saying, yeah, no, everything's fine, and it's, the Democrats are lying about this. Like, we're in trouble. It seems like the direction they want to take is the direction they're going to take, regardless of us knowing about it or not. It just seems like this is the path that we have been allotted, and it's going to happen. Like we're in a play, and the play plays out a specific way, and the script is going to be followed regardless. And the script written for us is for us to be further and further, as in debt and a slave in a system that, yes, it's universal basic income, but there's a lot of strings, and you're a servant to whoever hands you those funds. If those funds go away, like, what do you do? Like, if you're reliant upon that, and you can't bite the hand that feeds you at that point when you're in that system. So, like, you're this perfect little citizen. And that's not a direction we should be looking at going, because that's a very dangerous place to be.
Well, they might say, Sam, your universal basic income, now that you've just criticized the Donald, is zero.
Well, mine too.
You know what I mean?
Like, you look up enough things, you're on enough lists, it just is what it is. When you start seeing things for the reality that they are, you struggle. You struggle to, you can't go back when you start seeing things in a true light and understanding, yeah, like, everything is the way it is, and it's going to continue marching down this path, and to get out of the way of it is extremely difficult. It's going to happen. Universal basic income is going to come. They're going to put enough pressure and pain on us with worsening economy to where we'll beg them for it.
As long as they put me in a special class where my universal basic income is more than everybody else's, I'm aboard, people. I'm just kidding. It's insanity, is what I'm telling you. I've got 2 stories left. Can you stay with me a little longer, Heath?
Yeah, can do.
All right, hang tight. I want to talk about the Supreme Court and companies suing the Trump administration. We'll talk about that, and then I want to talk about the new pizza index. You've heard of the Big Mac index from years ago, right? They got a pizza index coming up, too. You can just check it out. You can just find out about the economy by buying pizza. We'll talk about it. I'm Sam Bushman. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest, Heath Perkins, doing a phenomenal job. He's with freewatercoinco.com. You've got a friend in the honest money business. Constitutional currency, that's what it's all about. It's a hedge against everything we're talking about to protect you and your family. God save our republic. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman, hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, continues now. Heath Perkins with me, freewatercoinco.com. We're talking about the Honest Money Report. Mm-hmm. Gold is at $4,205.90, $4,205.90. Silver at $56.95. Out of control, folks. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is Trump says, hey, your concerns about the economy? Fake. You don't need any concerns. Yeah. Hey, cost of living concerns are fake. I don't even understand a statement like that. When I go places, you can call it fake all you want, but when I don't have money in my bank account to pay for the things that I normally used to be able to pay for, I'm just telling you right now, to say that it's fake is a clown show. As Heath wisely pointed out, it's gaslighting, Heath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We're all feeling it. Again, the statement I made before, it cost Trump more money to bend over and pick up a $100 bill than step over because of his time and what he makes. So he doesn't have these kind of realistic perspectives that we do. But yes, to gaslight us all, to say that, yeah, you're imagining this. I don't know, that doesn't bode very well. But yeah, it's a very real thing, and we're all experiencing it.
Billionaire Donald, ladies and gentlemen, as president of the United States, has a $400,000 a year universal basic income. That's been the president's income for quite some time, and he doesn't even need that, does he? Anyway, very strange. All right, the Supreme Court has not yet ruled on the, quote, legality of President Trump's sweeping tariffs. But some companies, including Costco and Bumblebee Foods, they're basically filing lawsuits, hiring lawyers, because these companies are anticipating that the Supreme Court may rule against the tariffs, which they say has collected approximately $200 billion since they started. In oral arguments last month before the courts, the justices already appeared skeptical about the arbitrary tax imports, tariffs, if you will, by the president. And the latest legal move was made by Costco, which, through its lawyers, requested a Federal Trade Commission. I guess they want to protect their rights to a full refund. And so I don't know about these refunds, but some businesses have opted to sell their potential refund rights to other entities or whatever. I guess it's kind of like if I have accounts receivable and I sell it to somebody else, dip financing or whatever you want to call it, then all of a sudden somehow I can sell that. And then if I get it back, if I get the refund, then they'll win big. The Supreme Court's ultimate decision is expected to be complex, and they say that it'll probably send it back to the lower courts for details to work it all out. And they say it'll be very complicated indeed. Do you think these companies will get refunds, and do you think they'll rule against Trump, or what do you think is going to happen, Heath?
I think they're kind of setting the stage for themselves to be in first position, Costco and others, if this does go against it. That's a lot of money, $200 billion on the table, and part of it is, could be in the potential revenue of all of these businesses if they win. And so, and then you have the ones who are selling off their rights to their winnings. So $1 in hand right now is worth, $2 down the road if it ever shows up, kind of a thing. So it makes sense that they're trying to position themselves in this scenario, but for the government to release funds, even if the Supreme Court does it, the government can tie up these decisions for years or decades, and having a right to those funds or first in line, it might take a lot of time. It may be them just pushing back to say, hey, this isn't how we should be doing things. You need to find out a solution that's legal.
All right, I got a prediction. I think they're going to half rule against Trump. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they're going to yank that $200 billion from the government. That won't happen. At the same time, I think that there might be some splitting of hairs, or in other words, the court hasn't just ruled on constitutionality of things. They've found ways to kind of rule and let everybody win and everybody lose at the same time kind of rulings. So I'm expecting something like that. I don't think they'll just hand Donald his head. I think they'll go ahead and put it back to the lower courts and just delay this thing and drag it out, and then they'll come up with some compromise that makes everybody happy. I personally don't think Trump has the authority to just randomly, arbitrarily put tariffs on anybody, anywhere, anytime, just willy-nilly. Oh, tariff this, tariff that. Oh, no, we're waiving this. Oh, we're doing this tariff, but we're going to do that. And we're going to. That's all a congressional responsibility. And so I hope that the courts kind of stop Trump from this. But I also hope we can move forward with appropriate tariffs, because I believe in minimal but yet effective necessary tariffs to pay for the proper role of government. So there's a balance. I'm not against Trump on tariffs. I am against the willy-nilly actions of the president. Congress be darned, right?
Yeah. No, tariffs are meant to make trade fair between nations. Like if someone's going to tariff us on our cars we're shipping over there, 50% or 100% or whatever it is, like Japan does, their cars coming here, would be equally tariffed. Or that's usually how and that's the fair side of playing with governments. But it's not that case. And so there's an unfair advantage in Japan for their cars being sold without the tariffs and ours having 100% tariff. And so it's a struggle, but it was meant to make everyone play fair. But because we are the consumer nation of the world, everyone wants to sell to us, and so we've kind of been laxed on tariffs and things, but then the end user is always the one who pays the tariff. Like, yes, that's the government collecting those funds to pay for its day-to-day functions, but the end user will always pay the tariff or the tax or whatever it is, and the end user is the individual who has to consume the most from his monthly earnings, and so it falls on the poorest of us to pay the most in these tariffs and taxes because they consume the most based upon the amount that they make. So it's a struggle because we don't see tariffs as another form of tax, but it is for those who consume, those who have certain goods and need those goods, and they come from other countries, and those tariffs, are added to those countries' goods, and now the bottom individual pays that, the consumer pays that. So it's tough. We all need to start playing fair. All nations need to start playing fair. If there's a 10% tariff on one nation, the nation should have the same 10% tariff, and there shouldn't be any issues. These tariffs shouldn't be ongoing. They should be, kind of being brought back down into reality once the other nations pull their tariffs down as well. Again, this is supposed to make the big boys play fair.
And if they play by the rules and reduce tariffs, we can all have low but effective tariffs. We could also then make sure that, hey, governments aren't subsidizing products or dumping products on the free market and all that kind of stuff. There is a proper role for the government to play, and it's universal stable tariffs. It's adjusting tariffs per countries based on if they're bad actors in the market, the tariffs go up. If they're appropriate actors in the market, the tariffs can go down. It was meant to be a level playing field mechanism, not a Donald Trump wield it like a big stick. We're going to beat you into submission, or we're going to do this and that. All I know is if we start to have tariffs on pizza, Americans are going to riot. Have you seen those commercials? Pizza, pizza. You ever heard that?
Yeah. It's a little Caesar pizza.
Well, anyway, nationwide pizza sales, they say, are slowing. Do you know what the national average cost of a cheese pizza is now?
Well, Little Caesar, $7-8.
Yeah, but that's at the low end of the kind of pizza deal. What do you think the average cost?
National
average cost.
Probably $14. $14.50.
You're close, my friend. And your number's probably right, because you know that the concerns about this are fake. But it's $17. The average cost of a large cheese pizza, $17 in the nation right now. Nearly $30 for a large pizza from Pizza Hut in Los Angeles. The pizza industry sales, they say, have been flat since 2023. Wow. With Pizza Hut experiencing 8 consecutive quarters of declining sales. Papa John's reported a shift from large to medium pizzas. And, of course, people are buying fewer toppings this quarter because they don't really have the money. Independent pizza shops are generally not experiencing the same decline as the big chains, and that's partly because they have more of a local following. The other reason is that they don't have bottom barrel prices for pizzas in the first place, so they got a little bit more margin to play with. They say a significant cost increase for ingredients is the cause. What do you say to all that? I mean, we used to talk about the Big Mac index, where you could literally go to McDonald's and kind of compare a Big Mac to prices. Go ahead and skip that break, to prices. And what you'd say is, hey, the bun, so you got bread, the cheese, the sauce, the meat, and it's really a good cross-section of the economy. Now it's kind of like a pizza index is emerging. Heath, very strange.
Yeah. Let's hope it doesn't get pegged to Costco's pizza, because they have the largest and cheapest pizzas out there. Yeah, no,
What is it, $12 for a massive pizza? Something like
yeah,
that?
yeah, and it weighs a ton. Yeah, and they don't skimp on anything. But yeah, it would be an interesting index to see. I just like we already have the consumer price index, and the products that have been in that since the 80s have changed over the time, just so that doesn't look as bad as it was. I mean, when we first started it back in the 80s, they had a steak in there. Now they have a replacement for the steak as hamburger, saying it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. So if we have an index for pizza or something like that, they'll just play around with the numbers down the road to say, hey, it's not so bad. It's this, it's that. They don't really use the same olives or the same ingredients, or they're
Yeah, we
fine.
went from fresh olives and mushrooms to canned, right?
Exactly. Yep. Stuff like that. They're always going to change the index and play with the numbers to make it look better than it was. Um, I first started seeing this back when Obama's unemployment numbers, they started rearranging the numbers and taking people who were 6 months or longer on unemployment and taking them out of the workforce. And so it's just like, if you can play with the numbers long enough, you can get whatever number you want, and that's what they kind of do. So an index would be good to see. It'd be interesting to see what the data would be on this if they kept it consistent.
If you used pizza and a Big Mac, you could call it the PMAC index.
There you go. I like that.
I just find it fascinating when you look at this, though. Significant increased cost for ingredients. And I just covered, for example, a company. The company's called Health Code, and they have like a meal replacement drink. A lot of times people on keto use it or whatever else. And I eat a lot of Health Code products. But Health Code products, it's a company offering nutrition shakes. They announced cost increases, and they literally sent an email to all their people, all their customers, said, we don't want to do this. We have no choice, though. The cost of ingredients are up 40%. The cost of shipping up 35%.
Yeah.
And the increased cost for packaging is up 50%. We're so sorry. We don't have a choice in the matter. And, this adjustment is going to change all of our pricing. It's something we've fought. We didn't want to do, but we have no choice. And so you look at that and you go, is that fake? Is that just, fake, Donald?
Exactly.
You think these people really want to just raise the price like that? So they raised the price from $60 to $70 for the shakes. It's a pack of like 14 days worth of shake. I mean, that's a significant increase, $10.
Yeah. Yeah, 18% or so. And it's one of those things where it's like we keep getting told one thing and seeing another thing, and the Donald doesn't have the right to gaslight us like this. Things are more expensive across the board. Yes. I've been surprised that fuel prices haven't gone up as much as they have, and I think that's one of the ones that we complain about the most. And so, I think that's one that has been held a little bit more steady than others. But across the board, people are seeing it. Businesses are seeing it. And they're apologizing. At least this business let their customers know, versus others who just they will take the inflation and then decrease, the ounces in there or whatever else, and just have the same packaging, but just instead of 16 ounces, it's 13.8 or whatever it is, and decrease.
Yeah, the way Joe Biden described it is you have less Snickers in your Snickers bar there.
Yeah, exactly.
I just find it anyway. It's
Mhm.
interesting to me, and this company went on to explain in their email. Not only are all these costs going up, and they have no choice, but then they said other companies are reducing the size of their packaging or decreasing the quality of the ingredients. We refuse to do those things. Would rather be transparent. We don't want to raise your costs, but we have no choice if we're going to keep producing what you've been getting all along. See, that transparency to me is critical.
Yes. Yes. We need more straightforward talkers, individuals who are willing to share why things are the way they are, and not just tell us this is how it is. If you, I mean, here in the shop, like we're dealing with a lot of our wholesalers are increasing their spreads on a lot of product because they're getting super heavy in it. Like silver, it's super high in the price right now, and so a lot of people have been dumping it, and so our wholesalers are paying way less to us, and so I have to compensate for that and pay way less to them, but they get it, and the wholesalers are backlogged, and so it's taken longer for them to pay out, and so these adjustments, as long as you're straightforward and open with the individuals and explain to them like this is what's happening to us, and so that's why you're seeing this price, or that's why you're seeing maybe a post-dated check or things like that. If once they understand it, they're fine with it. But just giving it to them and expecting them to like swallow that, like you have to help them see your side of the reality that you're in, so that and everyone's fine with it once you explain it. Like people want that transparency. They want to understand why it is the way it is. And
Well, and they're not fine with it happening, but it
yeah,
shifts the blame to more of an economic discussion
yeah.
rather than it does to attack a specific company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we need to have basically at the pizza, counter, there'd be a sign that would point and be like, Donald did that.
There you
I'm
go.
joking, but I'm making a point, right? That you know
Yeah.
what? It's not a pizza. The pizza people aren't just getting rich and just ripping you off, or the people with this health code. They're not just ripping you off. They have no choice, and they can either play a game and increase the cost 10%, decrease the size of the package 10%, and call it a day. But then people feel kind of betrayed. It's like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
When a lot of times what they do too is they will basically make the cookies smaller. So you get
Yeah.
a cookie, it's just a smaller cookie. When you go, when I was a kid, man, they had big cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Now the cookies are teeny. It's kind of like that. So it's really frustrating for people. But Scott Bessent, he's the Treasury Secretary, don't you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's involved in selecting the next chair for the Federal Reserve. It's a decision closely monitored by Trump, and Trump is kind of wanting somebody who will give significant interest rate cuts. Trump, of course, has criticized his former Treasury Secretary, Stephen M. Mnuchin, for recommending Jerome H. Powell back in 2017. Trump believes he didn't drop interest rates fast enough. Trump's remarks indicate a high expectation for Bessent to pick someone who will aggressively cut interest rates. Trump mentioned at a cabinet meeting that his decision on the next chair might be announced early next year. Trump has endorsed Bessent and hinted at possibly having him be the next Fed chair. Now, here's what I find interesting, or what I want to say about this, Heath, and your thoughts. Why
Yeah.
do we want to debate who the next chair is? Okay, all they can do is put their finger up in the wind and try to gauge the economy, try to gauge society, try to gauge where the wind's blowing like a politician would do. That's all they can do. They don't have economic data that's real, or they lie about it. Why do we need a Federal Reserve chairman at all? Why don't we just shut down the Fed, audit Fort Knox, get rid of this chairman, and then we don't need to worry about whether he puts his finger up in the wind or not?
Oh,
Your
there you go.
thoughts?
I'm with you on that one. The Fed is the U.S.'s biggest bane. Our biggest struggle is the Fed, and not having the right to print our own money and issue it to the banks for interest and earn that, because that's where we have to force tariffs and we have to force taxes on the citizens and everything else, because we can't collect the interest on the banks like we used to before the Federal Reserve stepped in. If we had that interest that the banks were paying the U.S. government, that would take care of that. That was taking care of the government's expenditures. But now we're stuck with the Fed. But all Donald wants is a yes man, and I don't get why he wants to drastically decrease the interest rates, because if people understand what that's going to cause more inflation. the interest rates going up are pulling money out of the system that Donald dumped into the system to cause the inflation we previously saw during Biden's administration. Like, we're stuck. Like, you can't decrease interest rates, and the only people who benefit from decreased interest rates are large businesses that can borrow cheap money, buy their shares back, keep showing their shares are worth more and more and more, like most of the people on the S&P. But or most of the business on the S&P, but like this is not going to help the small individual dropping the interest rates, because we're going to see more inflation if he does. Like, it's a two-edged sword. Like, you can't, people want the lower interest rates to get into houses and stuff and to make things more affordable, but at the same time we're going to be paying it the other direction from the inflation that's going to happen and continue to happen if we don't pull more money out of the system that was dumped in there. So
in my mind, what we don't need is really better interest rates. If I drop the interest rate from 6% to 4% or whatever else, that's not really that critical. What's critical in my mind is homes are so overpriced, people can't afford them. And supply and demand would say, hey, if the houses are too expensive for people to buy, houses have to cost less.
Well, this is the curveball that I don't like, coming down the pike is the Donald's talking about 50-year mortgages. If we have
No
a 50-year,
thanks.
well, no thanks, exactly. But if we have a 50-year mortgage and that payment now becomes affordable, that will just drive the prices of homes continuing to go up. Like, the demand will come back because the ability to pay a smaller payment is available, even though it's for 50 years. But
I think we ought to have 1,000-year mortgages, don't you?
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody can just live in their house. No one will ever own them. And like 20 generations later, they'll be like, well, it'd be more like 50 generations or whatever for 1,000 years or whatever. Yeah. It'd be kind of like, hey, you know what? 50 generations ago, my parents bought this house. I'm just kidding. It's just not sustainable is the point I'm driving at, folks. It's insane. It's kind of like giving them a minimum wage of like $200 an hour, as if that's going to help also. It's a fraud, folks. It's a scam. So what's fake is the lying from all these politicians about any side of these discussions. Nobody's bringing up the real issues. One of the real issues in the last story of this segment here, recent MSNBC poll says that a growing number of Americans, 6 in 10 registered voters, believe that four-year colleges are not worth the paper they're printed on. The degree is not worth the cost. They say, hey, people end up with no skills, significant debt, conducted by this Hart Research Corporation, Public Opinion Strategies or whatever. 53% said the college is worth the expense, like in 2013. Now only 33% see the value. Heath?
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I got my degree back in 2012, and it was in economics. And I asked the dean at that time, his name was Lo Glenn. I said, hey, when do I get to study, other than Keynesian, when do I get to study Austrian economics or Chicago-style economics? And he came back to me with a very weird statement. He said, you're not. The accrediting agency gives me what I have to teach, and if I don't teach it, I can't give a degree. That would just be me adding on top of what they tell me to teach you. So what they're teaching us is not necessarily for the benefit of those learning it. So yes, the degrees aren't on the cutting edge of anything anymore, especially in the economics. I mean, like, I didn't even get to see an alternative perspective besides the Keynesian. That's why our country's in so much issue, is because all the economists that come out of the universities are taught Keynesian economics. Government can spend our way out of recessions, kind of junk. This isn't beneficial, and yeah, these degrees are overpriced.
They say this change in perspective also reflects an increased interest in more economically feasible options like the trades, technical and vocational programs, and the like. So there you have that. Americans are waking up and knowing the truth. Heath Perkins, thank you so much. We'll have you back soon, sir.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam.
FreeWaterCoinCo.com, doing a phenomenal job on your radio. Think FreeWaterCoinCo.com when you want constitutional currency and a hedge against this inflation that Donald says doesn't exist. I'm Sam Bushman. You're watching and listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.